Hello and welcome to Chapter 2 of our text, Disrupting Dark Networks, for our CRJU 405-605 Crime Analysis course. For this block 1, we're going to look at non-kinetic approaches, specifically psychological operations and information operations. But first, here's a picture of a lizard that sat next to me while I ate lunch and eyeballed me the entire time. But he was so cute that I didn't care. All right, so strategic operations for disrupting dark networks. Overall, for this chapter, we're going to look at two main approaches. The first is called kinetic or targeting strategies, and this is the actual removal of or severing of ties of key actors in a network. And these key actors can be individuals, they can be groups of individuals, they can be organizations, businesses, different terrorist organizations that make up a network of overall terrorist organizations. Anything like that. And this is usually done by analyzing what's called centrality, using centrality measures, which look at people's position in a network, and it looks at also the overall structure of the network, and then people's positions within the structure of the network. I just wanted to quickly mention it, but we won't get to centrality till about mid-semester. The second approach, which is what we're going to start focusing on here first, is non-kinetic approaches or collaboration strategies. These actually look at less physical types of strategies to disrupt illicit or dark networks. Mainly, we are going to look at psychological operations, information operations, which use information gathering. We're going to look at rehabilitation programs to change people's ideologies. And we will also look at tracking and monitoring key network players. So let's start with our PSYOPs. Real quick, this approach is basically disseminating counter-propaganda or disseminating information to change people's behavior, to change their emotions or attitudes, influence their emotions or attitudes by spreading counter-propaganda through a network. As you remember from Chapter 1, people in a network are interdependent upon each other, meaning that people in a network affect the other people's behavior or can influence their emotions, their attitudes, their actions. And so we want to use this against dark networks by sending or diffusing through a social network counter-propaganda. And this can help spread mistrust. And once you spread mistrust through a network, if you target the correct players, it can spread very quickly and it can actually ultimately break up a network. The tie here would be sharing information, or who shares information with whom. The next non-kinetic approach is called information operations. This is the use of electronic warfare and computer network operations, and the emphasis here is the use of computers and technology. One way to use information operations is to disrupt transfer of funds or disrupt or freeze bank accounts. This can stop the support of illegal or terrorist organizations. As you may know, many terrorist organizations, including Al-Qaeda and ISIS, get their money for their attacks, their terrorist attacks. They get their money through international banks and international supporters and other sources. If you can stop that flow of money or guns or resources or weapons, you can stop their ability to commit terrorist attacks. And again, another thing we can do is called monitoring charitable donations. This includes identifying money laundering networks, Ponzi schemes, illegal political donations. We can also compromise cell phones and online websites and connections. If any of you have seen The Wire, they use cell phones to track an illegal drug network in Baltimore. You can also use web crawlers to go through online forums and by putting in specific keywords, you can find certain websites. Say you want to track terrorist networks, you can put in different keywords related to terrorist activity and track different websites and collect information there. Again, the emphasis for information operations is using computers and technology. We can also monitor the deep web using network analysis. Now, you may or may not know, but the deep web or dark web, it's not part of the searchable internet. So when you guys use Google Chrome or Firefox or whatever to search for things, you are not even touching the surface of what the internet contains. And the dark network or dark net is based on anonymity. And we can use things such as the Teen web crawler, which I'll talk about in a little bit, to track these types of dark networks on the deep web. All right, so continuing our information operations, one of the things we talked about was detecting money laundering operations and black market activity, drug trade. I don't know if you guys know of or remember the website called Silk Road. This was on the dark web. You had to use Bitcoin to buy things, but you could literally, and as you see my mouse move here, you could go to, say you wanted to buy pot, you go to drugs and cannabis, and now you see that there's 1,275 places you can get cannabis. This is much like eBay, where there is a rating system on how fast your drugs come to you, how good the drugs are, how good the price was. Unfortunately, just kidding, fortunately though, this website is no longer around. If you go to look up Silk Road, what comes up is the FBI symbol, and it'll give you a little bit of information about what they did to stop the use of this web. This kind of stuff is pretty scary too. You might say, well, you know, drugs, big deal, but people also sell other people for the sex trade, for the slave trade, for the organ trade on websites like this that are on the deep web. All right, and just real quick, I wanted to show you a way to search the deep web. One of the things you have to do to search it is to get a Tor browser. And the Tor browser was actually developed by the Navy to hide military communications. And in essence, what the Tor browser does is it hides your IP address. And it pings it off of other places. All right, so if we click here, searching on the deep web, this used to be the Silk Road website, but now it's called AMIA.fi. As it says right here, it searches hidden services on the Tor network, and this is so you can access hidden services. And it tells you right here you need the Tor browser bundle. It even gives you a link to download that Tor browser, and it's just like when you run Tor browser, it's just like running Google Chrome or Firefox. There is a disclaimer here that abuse material is not allowed, so if you see any type of abuse, which I'm assuming would be child abuse types of things, pedophilia, snuff films, those types of things, you can report that and hopefully it will be removed. But this is one gateway right here to the dark web where you can buy almost anything that a depraved mind can think of.